What do you feel like is the core problem that made you want this to be its own talk?
That's a great question. I think in my experience, both as an individual contributor and a manager, I've seen a lot of people just move from one thing to the next without taking a moment and have blinders on. And if you don't take a second before you engage with a customer or pick up that phone or answer that chat to orient yourself and have a actual plan. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, but it's good to at least have a plan so then you can pivot if and when that does happen in that interaction. So what I'm talking about is, have I seen this problem before? How recently was I able to solve it? Is this part of a pattern of a bug that might be going on right now? What previous outreach has this specific person made to us? Is this maybe duplicative of something that else that's going on right now that they have open? A lot of questions like low-hanging fruit to help prepare you to either pass it to somebody if there's something in flight or to just go into it with a plan. I've never seen this before versus, oh, I've seen three reports of this morning already. Those are two vastly different approaches. Or like, what's the language being used? If I can see the message, if I'm not like taking a chat or picking up a phone, is this someone who's in an emotionally elevated state? Do I need
Mm.
to come into this with empathy hard and fast, or are they short and to the point? There's no emotion, we're just facts. Am I going to be like tone matching them in that way? Being able to put like the best version of yourself for that interaction forward can make a huge difference in the initial rapport building and your ability to fact find, to de-escalate successfully, and to meet someone where they're at. If you're taking the same approach regardless of every interaction you go into, it's not going to work. You have to be like water and fill the container that you find yourself in the moment. And I found both in B2C and B2B situations that this is a framework that you can apply every single time.
Mm.
And it's helped me so much. And it's been something that I've taken with me from the last several companies I've worked at and tried to preach it to everybody and see if it can be helpful for them as well.
What do you think that this looks like, or what have your first line experiences been in a real ticket or a live conversation? Where do you see this going wrong in those situations?
A great example of this is I once took an escalation where someone had been for 20 minutes with like a tier one support person being told you can't do that. What you're trying to do, you can't do. And if you take a step back instead of narrowing in on what exactly they're doing, whether or not it's possible, what are you trying to accomplish? So that's where the solve or come up with a workaround step comes from because the person told me what they were trying to do. And as a subject matter expert for what we did as a business at the time and when it was at Brex, I said, oh, okay, yes, you can't do it the way you're trying to accomplish it, but here's another way you can achieve what you're trying to do. And we would have saved an escalation, 20 minutes of frustration for this person. They were happy eventually, but they weren't happy with the experience of getting there. So, like knowing, okay, I'm less focused on how you're trying to do it, but tell me what the desired end state is. And then, based on my experience, maybe I can find a nice workaround for you to get there. Or if it's a bug, maybe there is a workaround in the meantime. I'm not saying we're not going to escalate it and have it worked on, but let's get where you were trying to go as fast as possible, kind of thing.
Yeah. When did you personally realize that this was a real problem?
This was when I was working at Caviar. They were owned by Square at the time, and I was training our dispatch team who the courier interactions were different than the customer interactions, but still you can employ the same frameworks. So I was actually in an Uber on the way to the office and just thinking about the training I was going to give, and I came up with the acronym, and I was like, wow, this is like a good mnemonic device. I'll always remember this. I feel like if I take nothing else away, this is something that I can remember to go back to these steps as like just a repeatable framework. And that was a B2C role dealing with angry folks. And
Mm.
it served me well and it served our team well. We also took that training overseas. And then when I went to Brex and now Vanta, I've been able to share this framework and apply this framework successfully in B2B environments.
Why do you think that this is so difficult to solve for a lot of people?
I think sometimes there can be just like the fatigue of being in support. You can really just get into focus mode and you want to crush tickets or you want to take that next chat, take that next phone call. You can be applying macros too if it's not a voice environment. And if I'm a high volume customer and I get the same macros from different people on the same team, it's going to change the way that I engage with them. I'm going to feel less heard and more of, oh, I'm just a number you're trying to get through kind of thing. And so just by taking a moment to orient yourself around who am I talking to, what's the problem they're presenting me with, what do they think the problem is versus what do I think the problem is, it can just really help you start off on the right foot with somebody. And I think that's half the battle is like getting them to understand, hey, I'm not the person who caused this problem. I'm just the person you're speaking to because you encountered it. And my goal here is to help you solve it. And once you can get on that like same team mentality with them, you're halfway to the solution.
Do you have a moment where you realized that this couldn't be ignored anymore, that you were just like, I gotta do something about this?
When I was working on the training at Square, I was doing a lot of call review of myself
Mm.
and the team, and you can hear a lot of emotional cues, a sigh, like a pause, the tone of someone's voice. I always like to say, if you're on a support team, you're not a sales team, but the product is sincerity and empathy, and that you truly care about solving the problem. And so this is a way to stay grounded in that mindset and not get into, oh, it's just the next, I need to get on to the next interaction. I need to send that next macro. Like a little bit of personalization can go a long way. And if you can be a person to a person who's reaching out to you for help, it makes all the difference in them treating you like a person too. And maybe that even goes so far as like putting a typo in a chat and then fixing it so they know that you're not a computer. But the real moment was I heard a call where someone just blew past a lot of these signs. There were sighs, there were pauses, there was elevated like language, and they were very monotone and they just didn't seem to tone match at all. And I was thinking, okay, I need something that I can tell not just this person, but I can tell our whole team that they can use for every single interaction because I felt like it felt like it's something I was already doing. I just hadn't put words to it yet. And that's when I started to think, okay, well, what are the steps? And I was like, oh, I think I have an acronym for this. And that's when I came up with pause.
So what happens if teams or leaders ignore
Yeah,
this?
I think you deal with a lot more, and there's maybe higher churn. There's people who might even stop reaching out to support because they don't feel like they're going to engage with a real person. They might just get sent a couple macros and get sent on their way. I just think that what suffers is repeat interactions, sort of the trust that comes with your team interacting with customers. And that's when people start to talk. People talk about really good experiences and really bad experiences. And I think when you ignore this, you start to skew in the direction of, I'm not going to interact with them or I'm going to, and then I'm going to tell people about the bad experience that I had.
Now, the last question is why should someone attend your talk?
Someone should attend my talk because if you don't, it's only 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes, you can have at least one takeaway with a framework you can apply for the rest of your support career. There's not really a secret sauce. It's just building blocks that a lot of us do, but put into a memorable format and something that's easy to remember, something that's easy to explain. So you can take this back to your teams as well. Whereas, like some of the talks I went to in September, I had takeaways, but it's hard for me to put into words what that was when I was speaking to the director of support at Vanta. Whereas if I went to this talk or if you go to this talk, pause is something you can apply even in your daily life. And it's something that's served me well. And I think it's pretty foolproof at the end of the day. So it's something you can put into like your palette as like a support artist or like the quiver of your support bow, another tool you can use. And it'll just make your interactions and your team's interactions that much better consistently.